Welcome back to the Reading Corner here on Dreamers Defy. We are in the middle of reading something really good, and of course that is Vengeful by AJ Parnell. Now, these videos are a chapter by chapter read through the book, and if this is your first time joining us, I would highly suggest you go back to the introduction, start there, catch up with us, and we'll wait for you, like we always do. There are some disclaimers in that intro video, and I'll give you those here again. There are some sensitive topics in this story, so you need to be aware of that as we go. Again, if this is your first time, go to the introduction, start there, catch up with us. You really want to, because this is a really good story. If you've been with us all along or you're just going through, I hear you. I'll get on with it. It's time for chapter 23, Ghost of a Chance. Luke walked quietly back into the clearing, gathered a few logs, and added them to the dying fire. He made sure to keep his gaze away from Abigail and that damn cage he had built. Emily was right. He did not have a choice. He had to see this through. However, deep down, he knew his resolve was wavering. If Emily had not stopped him when Andrea was torturing Abigail, there would have been nothing to stop him from rushing into that clearing, yanking up those damned earrings, tossing them back in the box, and burning the whole damn thing before any of the other ghosts could hurt her. Still, as hard as it was to let Abigail suffer, it was worse thinking about the deserting his student and the others in order to save someone like Abby. Emily had looked so lost, so hopeless. How could he let her down yet again? Luke had failed the young woman not once but twice in her young life, and no matter how bad the circumstance he now found himself in, didn't he owe it to Emily and the others to give them their shot at some kind of justice? "Luke, is that you?" Luke could hear the tremble in Abigail's soft voice. Casting a cautious look back at the enclosure, Luke watched as Abigail sat up. Hands and nails covered in dirt, she looked completely undone. Her hair was disheveled, and long cuts ran down both of her arms. She had scratches on her face, and blood dripped from both of her torn and swollen earlobes. In shock, Abigail's gaze stared straight through him and into the crackling fire, while her body trembled from a cold that ran much deeper than the chill of the night air. Heart gripped with regret, Luke walked into the broken ring of salt and retrieved Andrea's earrings. Seeing Abigail like this brought back memories of the shell-shocked students who, like him, had been carried out of the school to waiting ambulances after the shooting. God, how can I just sit back and watch her die? He was supposed to help others, save lives. This was one of those rare times when he wished he could be more like his brother. Landon would have had no problem feeding Abigail to the wolves, or in this case, ghosts, especially after what she had done. Still, he was not Landon, and this was not his brother's problem. It was his, and he alone had to deal with it, and whatever fallout came from it. Sullen, Luke took the earrings back to the truck, opened the box, and carefully put them inside. Eager and ready, Tyler peered in the box over Luke's shoulder and pointed to the baseball. "My turn, champ." Now, just as with any other time the ghosts were near, Luke felt ice travel along his spine. Try as he might, Luke could not stop himself from shuddering. "Give me a minute." Tyler bristled. "For what?" Arms hanging over the side of the truck, Richard grumbled. "For him to come up with some lame-ass excuse to set her free." Shocked, Tyler looked at Luke expectantly. "You wouldn't do that." Tyler looked over at Emily. "Would he?" Coming to his defense, Emily piped in. "Give the man a break. Luke is doing everything that you've asked him to do. Now back the hell up." Ticked, Richard went on a rant. "Even if he doesn't let the bitch go, there won't be enough of her left for me to have a go at her once Mr. Little League and Miss Drama Queen get a go at her. It's not fair that I have to wait until the end for my turn." Snatching the baseball up, Luke turned to Richard. Out of everyone here, you're the last person I want to help. If you ask me, I'd say you had it coming when Abigail ended you. Stunned, Richard stood, mouth agape, watching as Luke slammed the lid of the box shut. From the very beginning, Luke had known Richard was a full-on narcissist. He was surprised that no one had killed him before Abigail caused his demise. Regaining his composure, Richard gave Luke a curt nod. That may be true, but if you want to snowball his chance in hell of peace, you're damn sure going to help me whether you like it or not. Angry, Luke wanted to put Richard in his place by letting him know that he did in fact have other options. Matter of fact, those iron rods he had been killing himself with, driving them deep into that rock-hard earth, were an insurance plan for himself. If he found that he could not go through with letting them kill Abigail, or worse, if he did, Luke knew he would need a backup plan to guarantee the safety and sanity after tonight. Richard smugly shooed Luke toward the clearing. Go on now. Put the ball in the ring and let the boy have his turn. We don't have all night. Luke grimly studied the metal circle and took note of the remaining spot he had purposefully left open. Once that space was filled, the barrier would be complete and there would be no going back. If the research he and Emily had dug through was indeed correct, whatever ghost, spirit, or token buried within that fortified space would be trapped, unable to torment, haunt, or move on for... Luke's heart gave a quick jerk as his mind lingered in an unthinkable forever. Heading back to the ring's assault, Luke's eyes stayed fixed on the space and the hammer and rod lying next to it. All he had to do was take that box and all of its contents, bury it within that ring, and the spirits who had tormented him for the better part of the last year would remain here. Even as remote as this location was, sooner or later, someone might stumble across it, and for whatever reason, dig up one of those stakes and set them free. But by then, he should be long gone from this earth and would not have to deal with them. Voice shaky, Abigail called to him. Luke, I'm ready to talk. Abigail stood, dusted off her hands and clothing, then smoothed down her disheveled hair. Ball in hand, Luke stopped in the third circle and stood there looking at Abigail. Even though it hurt to see her like this, he had to find the strength to go through with the plan. The time for talking is past, Abby. It's too late. Abigail limped over to the gate, ready to plead her case. No, it isn't. You said that they'd listen, that they wanted me to apologize. I'm ready to do that. Weary, Luke looked at Tyler, who stood next to him, shaking his head. Luke added, We all know that you're not sorry for the things you've done. Anything you say now won't mean anything. Hands shaking, Abigail brushed her tangled hair away from her bruised and dirty face. Of course it does, Luke. It's never too late to make things right. Torn, Luke tossed the ball back and forth between his hands. You once told me about a theory of entropy, that once something has been broken, it can never go back to being whole. Luke stopped passing the ball, grasped it in one of his hands, and glared at Abigail. Like an egg that cracks, it has to eventually shatter. Everything goes from order to disorder. Luke laughed. And you were right. Everything and everyone you touch gets broken. I don't remember telling you that. Searching the sky above him, Luke sighed. It was right after you filed the restraining order against me. The day I was standing in that freaking lobby, pleading with you to tell me what I had to do to make things right between us, to fix what I thought I had broken. Abigail closed her eyes and rested her head on the frame. Luke, please, you have to listen to me, okay? Fixing Abigail with a hard stare, Luke snarled, I'm done listening to your lies. Sobbing, Abigail slammed both hands against the cage. I'm not lying. Resolved, Luke set the baseball down and started to break the line of salt. Clapping his hands together eagerly, Tyler shouted, Bring on the rain. Whimpering, Abigail pleaded, Luke, please, you have to listen to me. There are no ghosts. You're the one who's hurting me. Luke straightened, spun around in a tight circle, and swung his arms out wide. How, Abby? How am I hurting you? I'm not anywhere near you. I don't know how you're doing this to me, but I know that putting some dumb object in a ring of salt is not bringing the dead out to play. That's impossible. Luke leveled his gaze on her. You're the psychologist. Why don't you tell me what's going on? Pressing her head against the mesh wire, Abigail tried to maintain her composure. I have explained it. You're the one who is hurting me. Somehow you have convinced yourself that either ghosts are acting on their own, or that you've somehow been possessed by the spirits of my former patients, who for some reason that you've made up to believe that I have wronged them in a horrible, terrible way. Abigail took a deep breath. The alarm on Luke's watch chimed. Reluctantly, Luke turned back to Tyler. Ticked, Tyler shook his head. No way. You've already wasted an hour talking to her. It's my turn now. Tyler was right. There was no more reasons to wait. He needed to let Tyler have his hour with Abigail, then Emily, and if she was still alive, it would be Richard's turn. God, how was he ever going to live with himself after tonight? In a panic, Richard flew toward Luke, unable to stop in time, and passed straight into him. Cold shot through Luke's body like shards of frozen glass. Unable to catch his breath, Luke stumbled back, then finding the slightest edge of Richard's spirit solidified at the edge of his body, took hold and yanked it out, shoving the ghost away from his shivering body. What the hell? Disoriented, Richard wavered for a few seconds, then solidified into his usual spectral form. We've got to talk. Wishing more than ever that he could just jab a finger into the jerk's chest, Luke seethed. Not now. Jittery, Richard's eyes cut to Tyler, then back to Luke. This can wait. If Tyler thought he was going to talk him into letting him go before Tyler, he could forget it. Yes, it can, and it will. You'd better save that vile energy of yours for later and get out of my sight before I change my mind about you letting you even have a shot. Crying, Abigail stuck her hand out to Luke. Luke, please, can't you see? Your mind is going round and round in circles. Eyes narrowed, Richard glared at Luke for a moment, then fixed his heated stare on Tyler. Guilty, Tyler looked away as Richard returned his attention to Luke. Fine, okay, have it your way, St. Luke. Don't say I didn't try and warn your sorry ass. Richard spun away in a cloud of dust and vanished. Unaware he had backed up so close to the cage, Luke startled when Abigail gently took a hold of his coat sleeve. I'm telling you, my love, if you don't let me help you, let me stop you from taking your anger and frustrations out on me, when you break that last circle, you may be so far gone you will actually kill me. Can you live with that? Looking down at her small hand on his arm, Luke shuddered. To be honest, I don't know. Fearful, Abigail's eyes fixed on the ball. And which boogeyman does that belong to? Waves of cold reverberated off Luke as an anxious Tyler jumped up and down beside him, eager and ready to have a go at his tormentor. The schizophrenic, surely you remember, the teen you talked into stopping his meds, which ultimately led Tyler killing his father with a butcher knife. In a panic, Abigail stuck her fingers through the wire mesh and shook the makeshift wall. You'd better let me out of here right now, Luke, or I swear to God, I'll have you locked up in a hole so deep, you'll never see the light of day again. Smile bright, Tyler looked down at Luke as he broke the white line, allowing him to access Abigail's prison. A cold settled over Luke as Tyler brushed past him, reached for the ball, and picked it up. At the edge of the clearing, Emily stood, her sad smile offering him a respite from the horrors about to come. And though it took everything in Luke not to reach back and snatch the ball away from Tyler, he managed to take one step after another toward Emily and left the furious Abigail and gleeful Tyler behind. Tyler's having his shot. That's the end of chapter 23. So what do you think? Tell me down below. I'm interested in your theories. And if you're saying, well, get on to chapter 24, we're going to do that real soon. Again, down below, let me know. Have you got your copy of Vengeful yet? You can find that in the description. You can find a link over on Amazon. It's either this cover, which is the hardback book, which we've been reading, or the soft cover, which actually has the person who played Luke in the movie on the cover. And we are talking to a lot of folks who are involved with the movie Vengeful, which will be out in October, thereabouts, maybe early. We got a lot of those episodes coming up. Those are going to be dropping every Friday for now in the evening, and we will have interviews about the creatives and such as we get this channel really rolling with all the content you guys said you wanted. Anyway, check back again here real soon here on the reading corner of Dreamers Defy, and we will get to chapter 24.